The steel pan is one of the few musical instruments with its entire history occurring in the 20th century. Being a relatively young instrument, many founders of the steel pan are still alive. One such individual, Clifford Alexis, is the co-director of the Northern Illinois University Steel Band.
He is actually one of the forefathers of this instrument. In the embryonic stages of the instrument, I mean, he was around, so what he has to offer in terms of history and just talking about the history of the instrument, I mean, these are things that most people could only read in books, so that's why I say he's pretty unique.
The steel was invented on the small Caribbean island of Trinidad. Cliff is a native of Trinidad.
Steel pan players in Trinidad came out of the lower class society in Trinidad. And so there are a lot of times, if you were growing up in middle class or whatever the case may be, you're forbidden to even go near where these people are, because they were considered the lower class, and that instrument is not going nowhere. It's not going to go anywhere. You see where it is now. I like to say this because as a person walking around here, going to school here, you see the steel band in a nice painted rehearsal space, and you say, wow, maybe that's what was happening in Trinidad. That's what's not happening in Trinidad. It was way in the woods and stuff like that you got to hide to play.
Since Cliff was a young man, he had a true passion for steel pan. And from a very early age, he knew that steel pan would be his life.
I persevered, and this is something, like I said, I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And here I am. After doing all the different things, as you say, you change majors, the $5 gigs, the nothing gigs, I was lucky or fortunate to get to America through being a member of the National Steel Band of Trinidad and Tobago. So that in itself was my big break.
And since arriving in America in 1964, Cliff has made quite a name for himself in the world of pan.
As far as I'm concerned, he is definitely one of the most marketable panists in the world. By saying that there are not too many steel pan players that can play really well as Cliff can, or compose as well as he can, or actually be able to tune the instrument, make the instrument.
Yeah, that's all I do. Either make, play, arrange, or compose. That's all I do.
And in the world of tuning pans, Cliff is arguably one of the best in the world.
In my opinion, the best in the United States, and probably one of the best in the whole world. No question about it.
He makes great instruments, and it's great that we have him here, that we can play all these nice instruments, and it's really hard in America to find people to tune the instruments and make new instruments.
I can safely say that he is probably the foremost tuner in the world.
Through all the praise of his craft, Cliff somehow remains humble about his success.
I think when you know a subject real well, there's a fine line there about bragging, and another line about you trying to be humble in what you do. And I try to be humble in what I do.
Well, I think like most great minds, they realize that there's no need to be cocky. The more humble you stay, the greater your work is, and you stay humble and you realize, well, just how much more you have to learn or that you can offer.
You went through these tedious stages of spoiling a lot of 55-gallon oil drums like those, and making all these mistakes and learning, and that took a lot of time. It took a lot of years, and anybody who goes through that kind of backbreaking hard work, I mean, that work in itself humbles you. So whatever he knows now, it's so valuable. I mean, I guess he sees there's no reason to be arrogant about it. But
Cliff's attitude and superior skill put him in serious demand.
In my business of making instruments for people, I'm probably like 4 or 5 years behind. Some people I turn down, other people I says, yes, I'm trying to finish a job for the University of Washington in Seattle, stuff like that.
Cliff's skill making instruments isn't his only asset. He's also a skilled musical composer and arranger, and he's got a passion to teach.
Cliff, being a native Trinidadian, knows everything about the native music of calypso and everything, so we're learning pretty much the same stuff that we would actually be learning like in the country of Trinidad rather than from an American.
I like Cliff. He's a great man. He's very, very talented. I enjoy playing all of his arrangements. It's really nice to have someone so knowledgeable of the instrument and the styles of playing that we have here that a lot of colleges don't have.
He is the lifeline of the steel band movement here at NIU. If there was no Cliff, there'd be no steel band, because he makes the instruments, he tunes them, he arranges, he composes. God help NIU if they should lose Cliff. That's all I could say.
His involvement has been absolutely critical in terms of being able to really get the players to understand the proper playing style, what kinds of things it is that he wants to get out of it. So when he first came here, he was bound and determined that he was going to teach the students to play calypso music the way it was taught in Trinidad.
And without question, Cliff has been successful. Under the co-direction of Cliff Alexis and Al O'Connor, the NIU Steel Band has achieved international acclaim. The band has toured Taiwan twice. The most recent tour was in 1998. The band has also been featured on the WGN Morning Show, where they performed live on regional television. And back home in DeKalb, Illinois, the NIU Steel Band performs an annual concert every April in Boutel Memorial Concert Hall. Cliff Alexis is certainly a talented musician and a skilled craftsman, but more importantly, Cliff is a wonderful human being. For Northern Tonight, I'm Brian Hansen.